with a full-year forecast. But Piers Corbyn, what do you make of the eco-greenies really going from claiming they're trying to save us from global warming to now just flailing around calling for eco-fascism and engaging in such bizarre rhetoric?
Well, it is very worrying, and, you know, it's not anything I would have imagined. They are so bad. For example, just Fox News and ABC have carried me, and I've been in, various alternative and some newspapers in Britain. But the BBC have absolutely totally ignored what I've got to say. And, after these blizzards and so on, in Britain and in America, all they can do is have apologists for global warming turning up on the TV saying things like, cold is warm, and we don't know what is going to happen next. Well,
that's an exact quote.
They could ask us.
Well, I mean, that's an exact quote, though. They're actually saying the new warm is cold. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, they are. They've got some bizarre sort of idea that, well, there was some warm somewhere which caused a bit of something to happen in the Arctic, and that caused this cold blast. Well, excuse me, we predicted these events anyway using solar lunar activity. I mean, all their predictions have failed. These are the same people who told us that Europe would be without snow but by the end of this decade, and instead we've got more snow than we've ever had, and the coldest December for over 100 years.
Incredible. I mean, I understand there's microclimates everywhere, but I mean, is it the coldest in 1,000, 300? I mean, what's your data show?
We can't say because we haven't got the data, but certainly we're expecting a continuing decline in world temperatures, so that we will be seeing on a more regular basis the coldest winters for some 200 or 300 years will start to become a lot more common.
Jet streams, for those that don't know, describe them, please, sir. And what's happening with the jet streams? It turned you did predict there'd be a slowing or a stalling, and I asked you if press reports here that it may have stalled were accurate. You said they are.
Yes. What you have at the jet stream is the general track of the low-pressure systems around the polar regions. So they go one way in the northern hemisphere and the other way in the southern hemisphere. And generally, when it's stalled in one, it will be stalled in the other half as well of the world. What happened during that New York blizzard, or just before it, was, for example, that we had a forecast we'd put out in detail that there would be east and northeast USA, including New York, would be hit by an almighty blizzard, and the country or that part would grind to a halt. Now, we said that in detail again 2 weeks ahead, and Standard Meteorology said, and we got emails from people saying, oh, no, we can't see any of this coming, Piers, no, it ain't going to happen. And then they saw something and said, no, it's going to go out to sea, it won't hit New York, anything like much at all. And then 24 hours ahead, they started admitting that it was going to happen. And when it did happen, it was even more intense than they had said 24 hours ahead, and much more in line with what we had said in detail weeks ahead. So we are very pleased with that, although I have to admit I feel sorry for all those people who were stuck in the ice, who were ill-prepared because Standard Meteorology didn't help them.
Well, I go back to what I raised earlier. How, if it's admitted, the ancients knew this, that the moon controls the tides. If the moon is generating giant seas globally, sucking the water out, many feet lower, bringing it in many feet higher, to say then that it doesn't affect weather when 78% of the surface of the earth is covered by salt or fresh water, I mean, it's just completely ridiculous. How can they say, I mean, it's beyond ridiculous. They know they're lying.
They do. They know they're lying, but of course there's big interest attached to this. I mean, they're self-serving pseudo-scientists, and the politicians in tow, or the scientists are in tow of the politicians, whatever. I mean, they want carbon trading to make fast bucks. They want to control the development of energy trading around the world. They want to control control agriculture a lot more, and they want the population to be stupefied and brainwashed and to actually desire to pay taxes to save the planet. Now, there's never been a movement in the history of the world before where people have been clamouring to pay taxes for any reason. Now, this is a fantastic opportunity for all tax collectors and governments, and they're not going to give it up lightly, which is why they will, use the state media to suppress opinions of people like me and put brainwashing sidekicks on instead.
Piers Corbyn, going back to the BBC, it took them over a month to report on ClimateGate after it was already a huge story, and now they still barely report on it and say it was an honest mistake when the emails clearly show premeditated lying by the UN-picked scientist. But it expands from there. Since then, like a line of 100 dominoes, every major fraud they've pushed has turned out to be a manifest, premeditated charade. Where do you see their hubris going? Are they running out of gas?
Well, they are running out of gas, but they do keep on filling up the tank. You see, the global warming scam is worth billions. I mean, we point out in our first news sheet of the year, which anyone can get on our website, Weather Action News number 1 for 2011, we point out that they've just put up value-added tax, but they don't need to put up value-added tax at all if they were to scrap the pseudoscience of man-made global warming, because that could save $18 billion a year. Putting up VAT is going to get them $13 billion. So to do something intelligent in line with real science would actually, get a net increase of $5 billion, which they wouldn't have to do anything but to do with VAT.
All right, we've only got about 3 or 4 minutes left with you. Other points, I've been asking the questions in your forecast coming up. Again, here in the United States, other parts of the world, you called what happened in Central Asia with precision, the Russia heat wave with precision. Give us a brief, because I know you're still compiling for the next year, but your brief long-term forecast in hot spots around the world or the United States.
Well, we haven't gone into a lot of detail yet, and we will do a lot more detail for the United States of America. But right now, we can certainly say that Europe, Western Europe, and Britain is going to have a lousy spring and a wet summer. In America, it's very likely that parts of America will be like that. But we do have to be careful and understand how the jet stream is going to affect things, because last year, for example, we last winter we had very mild on the Pacific coast when it was cold elsewhere. So we have to see where the distinctions are going to be. But
just interrupt you, sir.
More extremes.
Just interrupt as you're using English nomenclature. Quantify for us, what does a lousy spring, or what do those terms mean?
Lousy means cold and wet. So in terms of farming, it means that the sprouting of crops will be late. So it's bad for agriculture and bad for the economy.
Okay, continue now with what you were saying for the summer.
Yes. Well, in Britain, it will be generally wet or very wet, and there will be probably also a lot of extreme type wet events in America. But we don't know where as yet, and we will have to work that out and let people know.
How did you predict the Pakistan flooding? How did you predict the Russian record heat wave?
Right. Well, our look-back maps as to when there were similar weather, solar, magnetic, lunar forcing in the past showed us that there was going to be high-pressure blocking in East Europe and Russia, which would give a hot south wind and cause that, and that occurred again and again and again in the weather map, so we knew it would be a heat wave. In terms of Pakistan, we didn't have any maps of Pakistan, so we didn't have any prediction that that what would occur did occur, but when we saw what was happening for Russia, we could also see when it was going to end, and we could also see that that meant that the super deluges in Pakistan would end at the same time, because the whole pattern around the world was going to change. So we predicted to the day when there would be the end of the Russian heat wave and a final gasp of storms, which would then completely peter out in Pakistan and end the super deluges there. And those happened to the day.
But I mean, you're saying a general cooling trend in the next few years, or an accelerated one?
Yes, an accelerated one, I would say. Just on that Russian thing, it was very interesting. You could plot on the sun what actually happened. There was a double sunspot coronal explosion, and 12 hours after that, you had massive thunderstorms in St. Petersburg, and then later in Moscow, and the situation also changed in Pakistan. And in terms of what's happening in general over the next few years, yes, we think there will be accelerated cooling, and if you like, this year is the beginning of quite rapid decline of world temperatures.
Well, Mr. Corbin, meteorologist, astrophysicist, you've been very gracious with your valuable time. Folks can go to your site. They can contribute or sign up and get your detailed forecast, or get a lot of great, invaluable general information all over. In closing, because when you were on last year, you explained to people that, and I'm putting in my words, but I want you to close in your own.
Yep.
And tell me if I'm incorrect repeating it, but I think it's some of the most important things you describe. The fanciest computers, the best systems, can't integrate all the different magnetic fields of the Earth, the moon relationship, the sun. All we can do is look back at past events, not so much modeling, but then being able to predict what happened because of where the positions were. That makes